Welcome. I am your host, Dr. Derek A. Reeves, and this is Essencology Q&A. Thank you for joining us. I want to dive right into our topic today. Our question is, what is dimensional mensiology? This is a very interesting question because in many cases people are not familiar with the Latin term for mind, which is mens. And so mensiology then is a study of the mind, not necessarily in connection with the neurology or the neurological aspect of the mind, but it is the study of the mind itself, the nature of the mind, the construct of the mind, and the very dynamics in how the mind operates. And so let's dive a little deeper. When we talk about the mind, according to Scripture, the mind and the soul are uniquely the same. They are integrated in that the soul is the living essence of the individual. It is the immaterial essence that filters and operates and is integrated within the somatology or the physical body. It is the spirit then that gave birth to the soul. The spirit was breathed into the face, or the Scripture calls the nostrils of the face. And so the spirit then was breathed into the nostrils, and man became a living soul as a result of the spiritual essence of God, the breath of God. And we found in another or an earlier broadcast that whenever we talk about the breath of God, the nefak, or the very ruach of God. See, God breathing, nefak, He is first of all blowing into, and then when we talk about the ruach, it is actually the very spirit of God. It is the breath of God, or the extending of the will of God. Remember, God is spirit. Spirit is ruach, or in the New Testament, pneuma. And so when we talk about spirit, spirit then deals with the exerting of the reality and the essence of God's thought processes that generate reality or substantial existence. And so when we talk about then mens, we're talking about the human mind, the very construct of the immaterial existence we call a soul or the thought life. When we talk about the thought life then, it is trichotomic in nature in that there are some combined abilities of the mind to, first of all, exercise in intellect, to exercise in emotion, and to exercise itself through volition. So we have intellect, we have emotion or the heart, and we have volition or the will. And so when we talk about, again, the trichotomic aspect of the mind, we have, again, intellect, the rationality, emotive or emotion, the reflecting or the revealing of how one responds to circumstances, thoughts, or other stimuli. And then the will thelema, which is the ability to choose, to make decisions, the wishing factor of the soul, that which charts the direction. And so again, when we look at the living soul, the soul then again having those trichotomic aspects, but the soul is also trichotomically tiered. And when I speak of soul, I'm speaking of it from the immaterial essence and dealing with the mind. And so locked within the mind, not only is there, again, the intellectual ability, the emotive ability, and the volitional ability, but the human mind also has consciousness that is trichotomic. The trichotomy of the consciousness deals with the upper level of the conscious state, the subconscious, which is just below the upper level, and then the unconscious. Most neurologists and people who study the human brain and the mind have discovered that there in these centers of consciousness or states of a consciousness that the greatest impact and the greatest amount of information and activity takes place in the unconscious level. And then there is the subconscious and the conscious. It's estimated that perhaps 80 to 90% of all mental activity takes place in the unconscious level. And then the subconscious, and the least amount of activity and the least amount of exercising of the thought processes takes place in the actual conscious center. And so when we speak of mensiological dimensionality, what we're actually talking about are the dimensions of the mind, the various aspects of to what degree, how high, how thorough, how deep, how extended the mind can operate. And so when we look at this dimensionality again, we've seen that there are three aspects. There is the intellect. The intellectual aspect of the mind has unconscious, subconscious, and the very conscious level of the intellect. And so the intellect can also operate and perform and to exercise its capacity to solve problems, to analyze, to rationalize on three-dimensional levels. At the unconscious level, the subconscious, and the conscious. And then we have the emotive state. One of the newer aspects of psychology in dealing with the human mind deals with what we call emotion or emotive intelligence. Emotional intelligence or emotive intelligence indicates then being aware of emotions, what they are, the dynamics of emotions, and understanding how these emotive qualities can be used in a logical manner or a more beneficial manner. Even the emotive aspect of the mind has three tiers or dimensions. Again, just as the intellect has unconscious, subconscious, and conscious, the emotive state has unconscious, subconscious, and conscience. And then we come to the final aspect again of the mind, which is the volition, the part where we desire to do something, we wish for, we long for, and ultimately we give control over our limbs and the other aspects of the mind to operate. Just as the previous two, the volition also has three dimensions: unconscious, subconscious, and the conscious level. And so when we speak of mensiological dimensionality, we're talking about all of the dimensions, all of the heights, all of the levels, and all of the aptitude of the human mind to operate within the boundaries and the construct in which it was created to do. I thank you for joining me today. We're out of time, but we'll be back. And again, Jesus reigns. God bless you, and have a good day.